Coming up on this week's FAS TV, we hear from speakers and attendees at GO Falkland about their own experiences with regenerative agriculture. GO Falkland was inspired by the Groundswell Festival, and it is an opportunity to bring together farmers and crofters, generating engagement about regenerative farming practices.
Regenerative agriculture to me is making our farming operations as resilient as possible, whether that's for water quality, air quality or soil fertility. We've tried to implement some measures on farm to incorporate that. There are 6 pre-described things that are, I think, globally accepted as regenerative principles, so I try to follow all these principles on the farm as much as I can.
So the idea is to try and keep the soil covered as much as we can, keep living roots in the soil for as long as we can, incorporate as much diversity. Now that could be within crop diversity, diversity in livestock, mixing the two together. It's also reducing soil disturbance, and by that we mean potentially reducing cultivations where suitable, but also reducing chemical and artificial disturbance in that manner as well. And also introducing livestock into the system is a major factor. And there's also a 6th principle, which is it's context dependent. So whilst we may be doing half a dozen individual actions on the farm that might be counted as being regenerative, another farmer could do 6 different activities and still be generating some benefit for his soil and environment in his farm. So it doesn't really have a definition as such, although people do argue about it quite a lot. It's more following a set of principles and guidelines.
For us, regenerative agriculture is, it's a bit of a mindset. It's a list of different practices for different people, but for us, it's how those practices fit into our context. How can we be farming, sort of light touch farming, if you will, not too intensive, not very low input, and for us on the sheep front, that's not systematically worming, that's not systematically using porons. We're checking, fecal egg count checking to see if we need to be taking action with the flock, and with the cows as well. We're grazing them all together. It's mob grazing. Reduced our fertilizer inputs. We use biostimulants now instead of inorganic fertilizers. No pesticides, herbicides, fungicides. Trying to use our little farm as our little ecosystem, trying to get the most out of it.
I think attitudes are changing. It's very difficult to say how quickly attitudes are changing, and I think it's very interesting, the whole idea of regenerative agriculture. I think that farmers will adopt some elements, perhaps not all of the elements, but they're certainly bringing in more of the elements into it. For example, biodiversity. That's quite a key one. It's going to be a critical one going forward, and possibly in the past it wasn't as important for farmers as what it is now, and certainly what it will be in the future as well.
With help from SAC and the James Hutton Institute, I've been encouraged to broaden our rotations, so we now grow beans as part of a rotation. Previously we'd had turnips in the rotation. Beans provide another break crop, but also are very good at sourcing nitrogen, so it's reduced our use of nitrogen fertiliser on the farm. We've stopped using artificial fertiliser on our grass because we rotationally graze more now in a more managed system. I've also changed from always ploughing to doing some ploughing, some minimum cultivations and some direct drilling. And we've also been started to try and integrate cover crops into our farming operation. During lockdown, investigated further how to make good compost. And then that led me to return to a microscope and start to look at our soil under a microscope. So from that I've been trialling different types of compost on the farm. Rather than applying tonnes per hectare of compost, I'm trying to get it down to applying a small amount of compost via a compost extract. So we've been trying treating seeds with compost extract, and the initial results have been very positive. I need to replicate that and do it over several years till I know it works really well, but from all the research that I've read, it looks really good. Other things are using fermented products to feed some livestock. Some of our livestock are out all year on just grass, but we have a small number of livestock that we're feeding, so I'm trying to feed them just on farm with some fermented products reduced on the farm.
So the Highland Clip is a collaboration between producers, wool producers and manufacturers. So what the Highland Clip wants to do is try and put value back into wool, into Scottish wool, into Highland wool, and we're committed to paying a good price, around £1.50 a kilo, for greasy wool from farms that are doing the right thing with their land, with their sheep, with their livestock, with the ecosystem within which they work. And we're buying that wool and turning it into what we can see just on the side here. So what we've got is a variety of products, all carpets, hard-wearing products from Scottish wool, and this stuff actually is from our 2022 clip of wool, which was in fact when we last had FAS up on the farm. So we're based up in South Clunes, we're up in Bewley, and so that's our story, and this is our first show. So we're excited to show what we've got now.
Today I was talking about bale grazing in one of the tents. It's really easy, it's really low input, there's not the risk of machines breaking down. Cattle inside for us was costing about £20 a week with all costs, and on paper saving is about £36,000 a year for us, which is it's profit or loss for cattle. Cattle used to lose money about, not including subsidy, they used to lose about £8 a cow. Now we're over, it's about £300 a cow we make profit each year without the subsidy. On certain fields we just line up the bales of hay. The group of cattle that's in that field will get one bale a day of hay, and the cattle then, we just move an electric fence, strip graze it across the field, and we know when we put 130 bales in that field, it's going to last that group of cattle basically the whole winter, mid-December through until they start calving in April.
The changes that we've made to farm more regeneratively have had a number of impacts on the business. It's been a change of mindset for those involved in the business. Some people have found it difficult because it's a change, it's difficult. The type of management has changed in that we spend less time driving tractors and using machinery and more time thinking about what we're doing, so the management time has increased. As far as physically the business, our soils have improved in structure dramatically. They drain water far better. We can cope with heavy rainfall events much better. Our soil erosion has reduced hugely in that time, and our profitability has improved as a result, which I suppose is the ultimate goal that people look at initially.
On a farm, on a day-to-day scale, we're reduced our inputs massively. Our stocking rates have come down a little bit, but actually profitability has gone up. It's a scary concept to be thinking we're going to be producing less, but trying to profit more. So we're over that hurdle. So we've proved that over the last 3 or 4 years. And then because we've got fewer stock around, it means that we do have more time. We do have more family time. I've got a young family myself, so it's nice to be able to get away even on a July day, to be here to do this. So it's these things seem to create little positive feedback loops. So what's working on the farm is also working well for the ecology, and various other different beautiful spin-offs involving more free time and more profitability.
There have been a few challenges to growing different crops. Some of them, we try cover crops. Some of the species don't grow very well, they don't overwinter very well, they're not frost hardy enough. Some of them are just hard to establish. So we've whittled it down to a handful that we're confident with now, and we've got better at it over the years, and we now have a better understanding how many animals we can feed over a winter period to make the business sustainable. The benefits of the livestock are natural fertility. We can spread the dung around the farm, be that just through the animal directly or with manure in the past. And people can, you don't have to keep your animals outside, you can keep them in the shed and you can do it. Dung's a good source of nutrition and helps to build a healthy soil. It gives us a bit of diversity of income. When cattle prices are good, maybe the grain's not so good, and vice versa. So that there's that too, and it also helps spread a bit of the labour cost through the business as well. In terms of cost of keeping the livestock, obviously we had a lot of infrastructure in the past, buildings and handling and machinery to feed them and manage the cattle, whereas now we hardly have any machinery at all to deal with the cattle. It's essentially a quad bike and a pickup truck, and I think there's one old tractor, and that's it really. We have on the other side spent a lot of money on fencing, like a lot of arable farms up and down the country. We've let our fences lapse over the decades, so we have spent a lot refencing the farm to make fields stock-proof, and that's ongoing. We've done about a third of it, and we've 2/3 to go, so it gives us something to do in the winter.
So GO Falkland, obviously this is only its second year. It's based on Groundswell, and Groundswell has kind of like grown in size since it was first established. I think it's great to have an event like this in Scotland. It goes to highlight what has previously been a topic that's possibly on the edge, now to becoming, I won't say it's mainstream at the moment, but there is certainly a movement towards regenerative agriculture. So I think it's really important to kind of showcase some of the work the Scottish Government are doing in this area, and also kind of like put some of the science behind some of the evidence that farmers are seeing, and kind of explaining a bit more about why they're potentially seeing what they are seeing and how research can help them improve what they're seeing as well.
BASE is a UK organisation based on lots of different people, not just farmers. BASE stands for Biodiversity, Agriculture, Soil and Environment, and it's an independent farmer-led knowledge exchange body. I've been a member for 2 years, and I've found the network of members really helpful. So you can ask questions. We have regular meetings. So I've learned a huge amount from people actually doing this on the ground, and it's been enormously helpful to me.
I was talking on 2 panels yesterday. One of them was about the journey we've been on towards being more regenerative, and just giving an outline of how we've progressed as a business, and offering opportunity to other growers, farmers and growers, to ask questions. You know, they might have problems they've come across, and have we found solutions? And also, you know, it's an opportunity for me to learn from others in the audience what experiences they've had as well. And the second panel was about the incorporation of livestock into an arable rotation. So we use our cattle and sheep as a management tool within the business to build fertility on arable land. And so we had a discussion about that with some other farmers, which was very useful.
My arm was twisted to be on 2 panels yesterday. I was on a great panel with 2 other very experienced regen farmers. Our remit was just to tell a bit about our journey, what worked, what didn't work, what are the challenges and opportunities. So we had a great discussion in that panel. The questions from the audience really opened up the subject to the diverse range of topics that it includes. The other one was on compost. So that was a great discussion on the different ways to make compost, what we think it brings to the party of diversity. So that was another really good session.
Yesterday we had a panel with Ken Loads from the James Sutton, Julian Bell from SAC, and David Bell from, he's a farmer in Perthshire. We were talking about trying to align the supply chain expectation and all the audits and accreditation that farmers are part of. The Scottish Government, in the agriculture reform route map, it kind of says that we are to become leaders in sustainable regenerative agriculture. So what does that mean in practice? What do we actually expect from farmer? How do we transition from what's going on just now in Scotland to like a more, kind of global transition for the entire Scottish farming community? That's kind of what we're working on at the moment.
I think it's the easiest way to make farming profitable without the risk. And as everybody's farm's different, this shows that there's people for all different types of farms here, so it shows how everybody can make it work on their farm. It's not just, you have to have a dry farm, you have to have this. It works everywhere, and there's lots of people open to a lot of different ideas, and everybody talks about their idea and whatnot. So it's just going back to pre-war agriculture a bit, and without the reliance on inputs. That's how I see it anyway, and it's encouraging seeing a lot of people going down this route and talking to people. And it's not about being seen as eco-friendly or whatever, it's just making your farm business resilient for the future.
Groundswell, GO Falkland, like events like this are absolutely crucial to what we're doing. This is absolutely amazing to see farmers here being able to share stories, being so honest about what works, what doesn't work, what they, have they learned, how they transition. The peer-to-peer element, farmer-led element is absolutely crucial to Scotland transitioning to a more regenerative farming system. And then just being able to have policy, research, and the farming community hanging out together and discussing problems. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. We should have those all year round.
I came here to GO Falkland this year. It's an opportunity to learn more information, chat to peers, both other farmers, farm managers, researchers, see what's going on, see what new ideas are out there, what can we go home and try at home to further our journey.
I found it really useful. There's a huge amount of really good conversations happening. Great talks from very experienced and less experienced people. There's a broad range of different people from different organisations and businesses. And if you speak to the same person, the same sort of people all the time, you come up with the same answers. But when you mix everybody together, you get much better conversations and ideas come from that. So I take away a huge amount of information from this. I've learned more about fertility in soil and diversity and thinking about the human gut and as well as policy change that's happening in Scotland just now. So all really important things to our business.
I think things are changing and consumers are much more interested now in knowing where the food comes from, where the wool comes from, where everything we're using, what's the history, what's the story. People have sort of had, if you'll pardon the pun, the wool pulled over their eyes, because you don't really think about it too much. You go into a big supermarket, you grab a product, you're sort of more interested in price than provenance. But events like this show us that there's a lot of people out there that are keen to know the story, to know the backstory. So I'd like to imagine that it is becoming more and more important to people. And with that story, perhaps products cost more at this stage because the supply chains are difficult, because we're still working on smaller quantities than really big industrial operations. But the more people that are involved in this, the more the price will come down, So we're hoping to start that off with what we're doing. And it's brilliant to see there's other people doing something very similar to what we're doing here today at GO Falkland. So, yeah.